Welcome to Sovereign Mamas, the podcast sanctuary for visionary women who are building lives, businesses, and legacies in alignment with their feminine power. I'm your host, Julia Jerg, intuitive business coach, mama of two, and systems strategist for solo-led entrepreneurs. Here, we honor both your sacred role as a mama and your wild vision as a changemaker. Expect soul-aligned strategy, raw storytelling, behind the scenes, and powerful conversations that support you in scaling your business without sacrifice. If you're done choosing between success and sovereignty, you're home. Let's begin. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sovereign Mamas podcast. This is your moment to recharge, to connect with women around the world, and simply to get inspired and hear stories and dive deep in, the topics of motherhood and personal development, business, spirituality, and all the good stuff. So today's guest is from all around the world, the other corner of the world. We couldn't be on a more diverse angle of this planet. So hi to Hawaii, Meg. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. How are you?
Yes, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, sure. Um, I think, what attracted me to you because I did reach out. Normally it's the other way around, or not normally, but I've mostly the guests come and say, "Oh, I came across your show," and I don't know. I saw pictures of you, and I'm a very visual person. And when I traveled full time, this was like the last decade. Hawaii was one of the places where I really fell in love with the vibe, the colors, the nature. And so for some reason, Instagram showed me your account, and I saw your beautiful pictures. And I was like, oh, this is exactly the vibe. But not only because of Hawaii itself, but what you talk about, because you show your family life, your business life, the values you stand for. And I think it was one of the posts where you were with your daughter in a video, and it's like this the angle of empowering other women as well to go for your goals and the growth mindset that spoke to me. And so I said, okay, I need you on the show. We have to talk.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of times, especially like as moms, we use like our kids as the excuse of why we can't pursue things and why we can't do things. But I think one of my favorite reframes is to use them as the reason, not the excuse. And so that's always my heart behind everything is I want to raise my kids in an environment that just shows them that everything is possible. And the only way to do stuff, I mean, if you have kids, that's the only way to really teach them anything is to do it yourself and let them watch you do it. So it's such an amazing motivator to get out of bed in the morning and really get to work.
That's very true. And, you also speak a lot about stepping into that next level of identity. And you do it and you show it and you're using your Instagram to basically document your own growth.
Mhm.
And again, like let's go to the motherhood aspect. You just said it, but when you think about motherhood and when it started and how did it actually like reshape for you specifically?
Oh man. I think motherhood truly is like the biggest teacher in stepping into an identity before you feel ready. I think like from the moment you find out that you're pregnant, you're basically forced to step into an identity that you have no proof whether it exists or not yet, because you have to act as a mother and decorate the nursery and get everything ready before you've ever become one. So I think like for me, that is the biggest masterclass in stepping into a future version of yourself of anything in life that you could possibly go through, because
Sure.
you're truly having your like someone else's life is reliant on your ability to act as a version of yourself that you don't know how to do. And so I think as far as motherhood goes, that is an incredible lesson that you really can step into something before you're ready and figure it out as you go. And anyone who has kids knows that that's just true the whole way through. I mean, my daughter's only 6, but I've definitely learned that like as soon as you think you have it figured out, you're tested and you have to figure out something new that comes up. And so I think in terms of like, I always use this as an example for business is that people say, oh, I'm not ready. Or one day, when I have more skills or I have more qualifications. And I'm like, when you find out that you're pregnant, you decorate a nursery, you buy a car seat, you do all of the things before you're qualified, before you feel ready, or sometimes before you're even feeling confident that you can even do it. And in doing that, if you can translate that into business and you can say, hey, I want to be whatever it is, a $1 million founder, you can step into that identity before you have the proof. The proof is what comes after the action, not before. And so I love using that as an analogy for business, but also just for life in general. If there's a
Mm,
goal you're after or something, being able to say, how does that version of me show up every day? What standards do they hold? What kind of things do they do and believe and think? And then doing those before the evidence so that you can compress the timeline to get
yeah,
there.
holding that vision, right? I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about that the other day, because it's, it's so easy to look back and say, oh yeah, this is why it happened and this is how it happened. But when you're in the middle of it and you're just birthing a vision, or you have this idea for your business or in general, and then really holding that vision high and working towards it and figuring out the steps towards it. We don't know the steps back then, our
Mm-hmm.
past selves, but um, building that resilience and the connection to the vision, and every day coming up again and saying, no, no, this is going to work out, even though you
Yeah,
get, challenges and
totally.
blocks along the way. Um, and that leads me to something, that narrative that people say, a lot of people use, and when they say that mothers lose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, what do you think about that? Do you actually think it's true, or something else is happening?
I definitely think that it's possible, and I think that it happens to a lot of people. But what I believe is that I want my daughter specifically to grow up and see, I mean, my son as well, but like right now my daughter's 6, so she's at this like age where she's really paying attention. And I want her to see what it looks like to take care of yourself and to speak kindly of yourself and to believe in yourself, because I believe like I saw that from an example from my parents, and I believe that if I show that to my daughter, she'll grow up to believe the same thing. And I think with mothers, they just you get so consumed in your world and it's so isolating that it's almost easier and safer for your ego to just live in that because it's what you can control and you don't have to put yourself out there for potential failure. And so it's easier to just live for other people. I think it's easier to just think I'm needed and I'm not able to do this because I don't have time. But like I
Mhm.
said, I think my favorite reframe for that is like, do I want my child, would I be proud if she grew up and was living exactly like me? And if not, then I need to change because that's what they're copying, right? Your voice is the voice inside their head. Well, it's not what you're telling them, it's what they're watching you do. And so for me, I just, whenever I feel like I'm falling into that trap a little bit, I try to think, okay, would I be proud of Charlie if she was 36 and doing exactly what I'm doing? And if the answer isn't yes, then I need to reevaluate my priorities and what I'm working towards.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think aside from, for your children, it's so much also for yourself, right? Because it is a little bit of consistently evaluating your comfort zone, and
100%.
motherhood can create that bubble where you think, oh yeah, well, I'm busy, I'm needed, like you say, right? And so it's easy to be okay, right?
Yeah, and it feels good to be needed. I think it like helps our ego a little bit to be like, oh, I can't do that. It's almost like a little bit of a martyr syndrome where you're
Yes.
like, I'm so needed and I'm so important that I don't have time to put myself forward.
Hmm.
And yeah, I definitely think that it's just the part of it is the words that you choose to use to describe your reality. And I think people can really get stuck in the narrative and the story that they tell themselves, like you're saying, when they say they're busy or they're needed or they don't have time.
Hmm.
Those are just stories that you tell yourself over and over until they become true. And if all you can do is change the language that you use to, I'm not prioritizing that right now.
Hmm.
I'm not my priority right now. It sounds a lot worse, but it's the truth. And it helps you like reframe your mind of like, okay, well, maybe I should be a little bit
Hmm.
prioritizing my health. Because when you're forced to say something like, I don't have time to exercise, changing that to, exercise and my health is not my priority, it's like, who is that really serving? Because if you're sick and you're not able to, you know, be a healthy human to take care of your family, that's not prioritizing your family either. That's just being lazy and disguising it as being needed. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think the language that we use plays such a huge role in how we show up in our day to day.
That's such a good and simple, yet not easy always tip, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
absolutely, when you practice that, it helps a lot. Yeah, I love that.
For sure.
And so you're also known for, being a momentum obsessed um,
Yeah.
person, and that's what you're leading with, right? But
Yes.
when you pull it back and you say, life is sometimes unpredictable especially when you have
Absolutely.
kids. So what does it look like for you then in those seasons where simply life happens and your kids are needing you? What does momentum then look like?
I think this really has been something I have wrestled with for the last 5 years for sure, is that it's easy to show up when it's easy.
Hmm.
And I think that when things are going well, and like you're saying, there's no curveballs. It's easy to keep showing up and doing all the things. What separates people who are really winning and who feel stuck and feel like every time they make two steps forward, they get pushed back 2 steps again, is the training yourself that you have the capacity to show up even when it's hard. And so for me, that looks like I teach something called the 5 daily non-negotiables, and they are designed to have these 5 actions that aren't necessarily easy to fit in every day, but it's a non-negotiable. And that doesn't mean when your days are easy. That doesn't mean when your kids had a good sleep or when they don't have the flu. It's to train yourself to show up and see that, hey, I can do these 5 things every single day, even if I have to do it at 11 p.m. at night. I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And so once you get into a rhythm of teaching and showing yourself and proving to yourself, hey, I can show up if I say I'm going to show up, even for something small as like reading 10 pages in a book a day, or that's one of the non-negotiables, are just having 5 conversations with 5 people every single day. That's another one of the non-negotiables.
Love
Um,
that.
so doing these things every day and getting into the pattern of it, even when life is hard. So my husband and I always have a joke of like one of the other things is 45 minutes workout, which as a mom is really hard because you don't have a lot of time in the day, and that's a big chunk of time. And he'll say something to me like, "Hey, are you going to go on your run?" And if I answer anything that's like, I don't really want to, or I don't have time, or something like that, where it's
Mhm.
like my self making an excuse, that's almost like a forcing function that I have to drop whatever I'm doing and go do it. And so we
Mhm.
started doing this a year ago, and now it's not hard anymore. I just know that I'm a person who does that every day. I figure it out. If I have to have a neighbor watch my kids for 30 minutes while I go for a run, I'll do that. But there's always a solution. It's just your priorities and exercising the muscle of showing up. So I think in terms of like having kids, like even this call for an example, like we have our house renovations happening right now. I'm sitting on the floor in my parents' bedroom. I'm living in one bedroom with my 2 kids and our dog and all of our stuff right now at my parents' house. Um, like things are not easy right now. We have 20 weddings to photograph over the next 30 days. Like life is absolutely chaotic, but I still know that I'm a person that will show up and do the things I need to do, and I'll figure out the systems that I need to have in place to make sure that I do that. And so I think it's just a discipline thing. It's just training yourself to know that like I can trust myself. If I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head by saying, we all can do it, right? And we all have this opportunity. And it's again like with this simple yet not easy method. And I love that you're designed something to really support your audience and your clients with that, because sometimes it's really just that having a system in your hands and then sticking with it. And then it becomes your new normal, your next level of
Yeah.
yourself is suddenly saying, "Oh, th that's not hard anymore." And now it's just become a habit. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I think a lot of listeners who are in maybe still in the thickest of motherhood, and I hope you see this as something like uplifting and encouraging, because this is truly just another way of doing it. You might come up with a system for yourself that works for you. It's, I guess, creating new patterns, especially as a new mom, or even also later on in motherhood when you're like noticing you might fall into a routine that doesn't serve you anymore. Coming up with a new pattern or creating new pattern and shaping your next level of growth is always beneficial, um,
Yeah.
to reassess and do so.
I would say, and somewhere to start if you're feeling like everything seems overwhelming, is to pick one thing that takes 5 minutes. So, like for me, when I
Mm.
kind of started this journey, it was meditation. I used to just think meditation was for people who were the woo-woo group of
Mhm.
people. And I decided to give it a shot. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to give myself 5 minutes every day. Everybody has 5 minutes in the day. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like if you're a human, you can figure out how to create 5 minutes. Go lock yourself in the bathroom if you have to do it. But pick one small thing that is absolutely possible for you to carve out in your day and just do it consistently. Because doing anything consistently is going to practice that muscle and tell yourself, hey, I'm someone who can do something every single day. And so,
Mhm.
whatever it is that you start with, maybe it's even something even more attainable. If it's not meditation, it could just be literally reviewing your goals or writing your goals down on your bathroom mirror so that when you brush your teeth, something you already do every day, you can read your goals and you just do it every single day and try to make a play for 90 days of doing something consistent. And then you
Mhm.
can add to it from there. But I think really just practicing, exercising the muscle of like, okay, I
Mhm.
said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it no matter what. That's something that's super underestimated. And a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people are
Mhm.
so quick to find an excuse to not do anything, literally
Mhm.
anything. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, you've not done it one day, and it's easier to make an excuse for the second day. And pretty soon, it's 2 weeks later, and it's not something you do anymore. So the
Mhm.
exercise is to practice doing something consistently in a way where it becomes your identity. I am a person who. And so something that my sister and I have done for years is that every morning I write out, I am a person who, and whatever it is that I want to be. So, like for me right now, mine is I'm a person who runs a $1 million company.
Mhm.
And today I will be that person by, and then I'm going to list out the things that I'm going to do because that's the person that I want to become. And so just like changing the language, sticking to something small really consistently to train yourself that like, hey, you can do something consistent. You have time. Use the
Mhm.
language that says, I have the time to do this. And
Mhm.
then slowly adding it on to different habits that you already do to work it into your day.
Cool. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love that you have your sister as a accountability buddy.
Yes. Oh
That's
my
so
gosh.
helpful too, right? I mean, just find someone who's in the same mindset and who wants to be held accountable, and then that's really
Absolutely.
gold. Yeah, amazing. And while speaking about you scaling towards $1 million,
Mhm.
like share a little bit more about the maybe the inner shifts that have been required to hold that level of growth.
Yeah, I definitely think it has been a test to my mindset. I've always been someone who thought my mindset was fairly good and positive, and then when it comes down to actually having to make the moves, you're faced with the different limiting beliefs that we all carry. And
Hmm.
so just doing the work to realize that anything is possible, basically, because I think everyone has a limit in their head of what they actually think, even if it's not what you say. I think the biggest shift for me has been putting myself in rooms where my dreams are just other people's regular Tuesday. So,
Hmm.
like, my goal might be to make $1 million in a year, but putting myself in these rooms with different coaches and different groups of people where they're making $1 million a day, my
Hmm.
$1 million a year plan is very small. And so just shifting the perspective and getting around other people who are doing the thing that you want to do is a massive unlock for me. That was crazy. And that really helped my mindset grasp that like this really isn't that crazy. And to trust in the vision, like you were saying at the beginning of the call, and to really be able to hold that and say, hey, okay, how does that person show up? Okay, I'm going to do the things before I have the proof that it works.
Hmm.
I'm going to do it every day and see. Maybe I don't hit $1 million, but that mark is acting as a forcing function for me to get the systems in place and for me to have the right mindset and the beliefs around what I'm doing. And also create systems because I am a mom of two little kids that, like, hey, if I'm hitting this level of growth, I I don't want to miss life with my kids. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to need a team. I'm going to need things that protect my time because my priority needs to be obviously my family while I'm still building this. And I think there you can have both. You just have to be willing to give up control and know that like I'm not going to be the person that's going to be able to handle everything. That's not going
Mhm.
to get me there. And so I've been bringing on team members that I feel like unready for, essentially. Like I don't necessarily have the income to support this yet, but I know that once they come in, I can increase my volume and then that's going to break me through the ceiling. So that's I'm kind of in the messy middle of that right now, but it's on track and we're looking good. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Yeah, congratulations for
Thank
yeah,
you.
just and honestly, just for even trying and for role modeling this and documenting your journey. That's already worth celebrating and just giving other people also this inspiration and like you say, normalizing it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So,
love
so
that.
cool.
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there that's like kind of trying to figure out what your next steps are, if you message me on Instagram the word Sovereign Mamas, just so I know you came from this podcast, let me know and I'll send you guys my full playbook on like how to figure out your next micro action towards
Oh,
whatever it is you're working
amazing.
towards. Yeah, I'd love to
Okay.
do that for you guys.
Cool. Thank you. Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. And maybe also another little tip if you want to share, if mothers who feel torn between that growing bi their business and being present with their children, how I mean, you said team is one thing, but then managing a team, like I'm speaking from experience, is actually
Mhm.
very time consuming until you really have the right people. But what would you guide them to look at first?
Yeah, I
That's
definitely think,
linear.
like I said, I think having a team and being okay with having not doing everything yourself and
Mm,
just knowing that like there is a season where you're gonna have to grind and you're gonna have to do things and it's you're gonna work hard. Like I have been working really hard, but I also am scheduling in the priorities in my calendar first. So that means scheduling in family date days on Saturdays and scheduling in coffee. Like my kids and I love to sit and they have steamed milk and we have coffee on Sundays. It's like one of my daughter's favorite things about the whole week. And so making sure that you protect those times in your calendar, because I think what ends up happening when we really push forward in growing our business is we say things like, oh, my family is my priority. And but if I were to look at your calendar, I wouldn't be convinced. And I
mm,
think our family ends up getting the leftover time that we didn't need to do whatever the thing is that we're doing over here with our business. And so for me, I've been really trying to be consistent and cognizant of scheduling the family time first. And so that's protected. And that means I'm done work at 2 p.m. when my daughter's home from school. And that means the time blocks are blocked in my calendar so that I have to make sure that that is in fact my priority. And then having like my calendar and my capital, it's what my two markers are of priorities, right? And so making sure that um I'm not getting weird about having to pay an assistant that comes in and buys back my time in order to, make sure that I'm not on my phone all day long and I'm not
mm.
answering DMs. I've paid somebody to come in and do that so I can either use that time to grow my business and increase my revenue or be with my family. So those are the two big levers in my life. I'm either spending time with my kids and my family or I'm doing actual money generating activities in my business that's raising the bar. And everything else, I'm paying somebody either to come in and do it, which is scary because as moms, we're also used to doing everything ourselves. And it's
Mm.
like, well, I don't need to pay someone to do that because I can do it myself. But then what is that costing you?
Exactly.
So I think just reframing and saying, okay, what is it costing me? I either want to prioritize my family and
Mm.
make sure I'm available to them, or I want to do everything myself. And that's going to really lead you to
Yeah.
burnout really quickly. And so I think it took me a long time to get to that point to be like, okay, I have to look at the cost as actual real cost. Like when I'm losing time with my kids because I can't let go of control to have someone else handle my inbox, that's
Hmm.
costing me something. And so just making sure that when you buy back that time from your assistant or for whoever you bring in, you're not just going to watch Netflix. You're either using that time to, be with your kids if that's the point, or using that extra hour that she spent in my inbox to go on Instagram and create content and talk to people and have sales conversations that's actually going to pay for her to be in my inbox. So I think the shift of, yeah, when you buy back your time, don't buy it to have more, just to not work at all unless you're really at a good financial situation. I think using that time to generate money or to spend with your family.
Yeah, I love that. And depending on where you live, like for example, I have been living in Asia for now nearly 8 years. And so for one of the, the things that I immediately, not immediately, but it took me some time. And then when I did it, I was like, oh, duh. I set in place, getting help because it's something so affordable here. And in the beginning, it felt weird because I can obviously clean my house myself. I can obviously
Yeah,
do the shopping myself and cooking and all. But when you look at it as a reinvestment into your, not only all your business, but as a mother, you want to be full, right? Your cup needs to be full. You want to be
absolutely.
recharged. And I could be scrubbing the floor right now, but I could also play with my children on the floor. So I think that's a very healthy way of growing and giving yourself the permission to feeling good about it. And
Yeah.
this is
I
something.
think
Mm,
like you're saying, having a house cleaner is one of the easiest ways to buy back 2 hours a
mhm,
week of your time, or even more than that. Like it's so
mhm,
underestimated, and the cost of it is so low. Like as compared to something else that you could potentially do, where you can use that, like you said,
right.
those hours to like literally be on the floor with your kids, or you can also split it up, take an hour of that, go make a new client because of something that you did. Now
Mhm,
you've made money in that hour and you can spend the rest of the time with your kids. And so I think
exactly.
that's so powerful. Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
And when you are, looking at tracking your progress, and then also you track your progress, and I guess you track also your momentum and really have numbers in head. But you're also, from at least from what I'm seeing on your content, you feel like someone who's very connected with your body and your intuition. How do you make sure that you're staying, I don't know, can you even stay balanced? Is that something that you, or is it sometimes leading with that masculine energy and then the feminine comes and balances it out? Um,
Yeah, I think both can be true. For me, I definitely have to remind myself to not let my feelings fly the plane. And so I think a lot of times, especially as a woman, we can get caught in the narrative of like, oh, I need to listen to my body, or I don't want to work out today because I'm pretty tired. And I think
mm,
for me, one of the biggest levers of moving me forward has been, okay, I hear that. I understand I'm tired, but I also committed to, doing 45 minutes of working out. So whether I sit here and stretch quietly and calmly for 45 minutes or I go for a run, I'm still making myself sit down and do the thing I said I was going to do and
mhm.
not let my feelings fly the plane. So I can modify it and adjust it. But I think it's really, for me personally, very easy for me to make an excuse of why I shouldn't have to do something in that day. Like, I think I've lived that. And a lot of people can probably relate to that feeling of like, oh, my kids were up all night or whatever the reason is. I'm just going to
Mhm.
do it again tomorrow. And I believe you're either spiraling up or you're spiraling down.
Mm,
And you don't necessarily know when the downward spiral starts. And so it's that idea that I was talking about earlier of like, okay, I'm going to skip today. And then it's a little bit easier to skip tomorrow. And then pretty soon it's been a month and it's not something you do anymore.
yeah.
And your reality today is a byproduct of your, habits, actions, and beliefs from about 3 months ago. And so
Mm,
there's a bit of a transition piece where you get to enjoy the benefits of the input that you did 3 months ago while not actually doing it anymore. And you don't realize until 1 or 2 months down the road that all of a sudden that's not something you get to enjoy anymore. You don't have the fitness that you
mm,
had 2 months ago because there was that middle period where you thought where you're getting the benefits of your inputs, but you're not actually doing it. And so I think just remembering that for me is really powerful, just to
yeah.
keep showing up and to not let your feelings fly the plane. Like if you have a goal and you need to do the whatever the input is that you need to reach it, I just believe that you just have to put in the work. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. And that is actually such an interesting angle to look at it. If you zoom out and, beyond revenue and growth and metrics and everything, who, well, first of all, I would love to know what motivated you to say 1 million? Why 1 million? Because I believe without you giving me the answer, there must be something else in it. And who are you becoming through all of this? Is maybe even that motivation?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I think I just pulled that number out of anywhere as like a forcing function of it
Mm-hmm.
being greatly above what I was doing currently. And knowing that I could say I want to make $500,000 as like my forcing function, but it wouldn't require me to change that much. I would have
Mm-hmm.
to do a small amount of change, but it wouldn't be an uncomfortable amount of change. And so I think I'm using that metric more as a forcing function to put the systems and the team in place that feel uncomfortable for me to do right now because I'm not there yet. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm using that, like if I hit it, I think that's great and that'll be amazing. But if I also hit 800,000, it's also going to be great and amazing. And so it's one of those things where you like put the projection up here to force you to be uncomfortable and change and put the systems in place. And I'm going to be better off whether I hit it or not than if I put the goal down here. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the main reason of just calling that an even number of $1 million. I just kind of threw it out there and now here we are. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it did. It did. But also kind of like maybe I wanna get to the person who you were before, like or who you're calling in and who you're working on to becoming. Um,
Yeah.
we're always in a process, right? We're always in this process of shaping our next level, and especially then when we're seeing, or when we look back, even 2 years ago, 1 year ago, there was a
Yeah.
different version of us.
100%. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think for me, especially, I have a 1.5-year-old. So, if you zoom back 2 years,
Mhm.
I had been running my photography business for 13 years. I had got really comfortable in business where I just basically let things slide. And
Mhm.
I got pregnant and I was distracted as you get when you're pregnant and tired and had all sorts of excuses of why I wasn't doing anything. And um, I actually pretty much woke up one day when my son was about 6 months old and my car broke down and I realized we didn't have enough money in our bank account to fix my car. And it was the first time in my whole entire career that I realized I'd let things slide so bad that I was so used to just things being comfortable and working on autopilot that I pulled back and I wasn't doing any of the things I should be doing. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't taking care of my business. I was getting completely caught up in that language we were talking about earlier of just being there for my kids. And I'm in this season and I realized, hey, that's not serving our family. Like now I can't even fix my car. And so I had this like come to moment where I was like, I need to adjust my mindset. I need to change my language. I need to put myself in a situation that feels uncomfortable where I have to make this work. So we ended up pulling the money out of our retirement savings and we didn't use it to fix my car. We used it and we gave the entire chunk of it to a business coach that
Oh,
it was a Hail Mary move where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make myself accountable to the point of like, I don't have an option. I have to make this work because we are in a situation now that I have just given my retirement savings into this. I also have no car and I have two little kids. And my husband and I work in our business together. So this was our only source of income. And so within a month and a half, we had pretty much doubled our income of the year
oh
from
wow.
just doing things consistently. And I think that I underestimated the power of literally just doing anything consistent is helpful.
Mm,
And I started really going down this path of like teaching myself I can show up, I can do things when I'm tired, I'm capable. Like I have a larger capacity than I was giving myself credit for. And just testing that and designing it in a way that like I'm still available for my family and I still have these systems that I'm building so that I can have a really elevated life with my family, but we also have the financial freedom to serve others and to help other people achieve the same thing that I'm essentially after, which is, financial and time freedom. And then also be able to like pursue these goals and have my kids watch me like show up and be disciplined and do all these cool things. So I think that that kind of rock bottom moment really
Mhm.
made me make a decision I probably would never have considered doing otherwise. But it was the
Mhm.
best thing that ever happened to us because it really got me in that practice of taking action before you feel ready. And I think that's the key to everything, whether it's in motherhood or business,
Mhm.
just acting and taking action, being addicted to defaulting to action versus
Mhm.
overthinking everything.
Yeah, let it be messy, right? It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how it looks, but sometimes it's like the worst thing to staying stuck in the same old. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
wow, cool,
Yeah.
powerful story.
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
glad it worked out.
yes. But yeah, I love that, and and I hope everyone who's listening is like taking. You don't have to get to rock bottom. Obviously, there's always,
Yeah, it's better if you don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
But some of the most powerful stories come from those moments of really, there is no return. This is all I have, and this is all
Yeah.
I'm going for it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think there's something powerful in that
Mhm.
mindset where you are just giving yourself a non-negotiable that has to work out. And so I do think there is something to hitting rock bottom where you're like, okay, I have nowhere to go but up. And then what I have seen happen in my own journey is that once I started making things happen again and we started making more money and things were starting to do well, I started to revert a little bit back to my old habits because it was
Mhm.
safer. And then all of a sudden I realized, hey, acting scared and not taking risks and not doing this isn't what got me from here to here. And
Right.
so I had to remember, okay, continue doing what worked because that's what's got you here. And so when we get comfortable is when that we really run a risk of kind of reverting back into our
Mhm.
old identity and our old habits because we're comfortable again. So you don't have to be acting like out of a crazy desperation situation where you have to make it work, right? And so I think that's been a big lesson for me is that remembering what got you to where you're at and to continue doing that and to continue
Mhm.
pushing forward. So
Yeah, and I think that's the secret piece because when you think about it, no matter what ceiling you're hitting, right? There's always going to be that feeling of, oh, that's it, or the fears come
Mhm.
back in, the limiting beliefs come back in, and then
100%.
having the memories of the rock bottom moments actually is really helpful, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that with you on the ladder upwards. Amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you gave so many amazing, juicy tips, but if there's anything else that you would love the listeners to take away from this episode.
I think the biggest thing is just watching your language. I think that's the most approachable thing that you can change immediately after listening to something like this, where you can say, okay, how am I talking about the trajectory of where I'm going? What's the language that I use? So, for an example, when I was really in that rock bottom phase, I recognized that like I used to say stuff all the time of like, oh, business is really slow right now. We're just in a slow season. I'm hopeful it'll pick up.
Mm,
My language was anticipating things to be slow. It was anticipating us to be struggling. Um, Also getting stuck in the narrative like, oh, we can't afford that. We're so broke. Like, we're broke right now. We have to save money. And just listening to the words that you use and changing the language to expect to win. And just
mm,
seeing how that can change your energy, it can change your mindset. It's better for your kids to hear that type of like positive language. And I think we just get stuck telling ourselves stories and using the words we use or, like our default answers to different types of questions.
mm.
Listen to how you talk and then try and see how it feels to switch that language to something more positive, something that's more like anticipating something good to happen all the time. And watch your brain kind of reorganize to find the different opportunities that help those things become true.
Yeah, this just reminds me. It's so funny. I was driving with my two sons yesterday on the motorbike back from school when I picked them up, and my eldest sits in the back, and he's like, "Oh, I've seen now the fifth Kawasaki," because he's like, I don't know, he's excited about those motocross bikes, and I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah." And now I see another one, and the little one in front of me, he says, "This is my third red car that I'm seeing." And I'm like, "See,
The
guys."
red car.
This is exactly how the brain works. So the more you're focusing on something that
A
you want, the
hundred
more
percent.
the brain looks for evidence. And I
It's
love
so
that,
true.
and giving these, early days, like I love giving them those big life lessons and those
So
keys
cool.
um in a fun way because now they get it. And every time they want something, I say, okay, you just have to like make your brain look for more evidence and you can do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, my daughter calls she's 6 and she has this journal and she's been calling it her manifestation journal and she writes down the things that she's manifesting and sometimes it's like ice cream on a Tuesday, but I keep trying to teach her like the more you talk about what you want and the more people you tell, the
Hmm.
higher likelihood of that happening. So like you go around your nana and your papa and you tell them you're manifesting ice cream on a Tuesday, they're a lot more likely to say, "Hey, should we go get some ice cream on a Tuesday?" versus if you kept that inside. And so I think that's so fun. And it's like such a fun way to bring magic into childhood where it's like real and they can learn to use that to their advantage when they get older. And
Totally.
so we did this. She'd been writing Harry Potter World in her manifestation journal for a long time. And her dad and I, we were going to a family trip in Texas a couple weeks ago. And we're like, let's just take a quick little 1 day pit stop. We'll surprise Charlie. We'll take her to Harry Potter World. And we just posted a video of it on Instagram and we picked her up from school and we told her, and she said, finally, my manifestation dreams have come true. And it was just like the cutest experience.
Oh
And
my
I think it's
God.
such a good lesson, though. I think teaching them, like, the more you put stuff out into the world is a lot
Mm.
more likely to come back to you. So, yeah, I love that, though. The red car theory, I think that's like an
Oh,
actual thing. So,
so cool. Thank you so
yeah.
much. This was really, really fun and insightful and inspiring. And and this is what the Stubborn Mamas movement stands for. We just want to, share our stories. And it doesn't always have to be picture perfect or only about achieving things. I think today, Meg, your story really showcases also that the pure fact of I'm giving it a shot and how I'm approaching things is already half the win, right? It's already
Absolutely.
so rewardable. And
Got to
yeah,
be attached to the process, unattached to the outcomes.
exactly. Perfect. And yeah, we're cheering you on.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
everyone who wants to follow your story, we link to your Instagram in the show notes. And yeah, I can't wait when we pop that champagne bottle and
Yeah,
celebrate your
it's going to
first
be
million.
amazing. Well, that'll be amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, if I can help in any way, please just let me know.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for listening, and I see you on the next episode.